be somebody I'm not.
Well, tell us about your Playboys, Ineke.
I was going to say, the next question was there a book that inspired you, or influenced you the most?
Now, aren't you sorry you asked?
All I can look at is Timothy and I go, you are a very lucky man.
Yeah, you better say you were. That's good for you. Actually, it was the Lord of the Rings. I'd come back now, or even when I was 20 or so, and I see a lot of things that by then I was going, now wait a minute. A lot of them Diana Wynne Jones wrote too. I put them in the Tough Guide to Fantasy Land. And I was a little bitter because I thought of some of those. But at the time, it gripped me. And then there was a female who picked up a sword. I felt betrayed by the ending. And that sat under my skin like a nasty little burr for a long time. But that trilogy, and then it opened the door to fantasy for me. And Tolkien and Robert Howard's Conan books and Michael Moorcock's Elric books, those fantasies taught me a whole universe of ideas that I had not encountered before. And my imagination just took fire from that.
For me, it was two influences. Andre Norton's Moon and Three Rings was my introduction to the fact that you can write stories about other places than Earth and other people, even if some of the people have 4 legs. So that was the wonder of this thing. And because the cover illustration on the book that I took out of the library, that was probably the first edition of the Moon and Three Rings, had this alien-looking woman and this really interesting-looking critter. I was convinced that Andre Norton looked like that. You know, that because I didn't understand fantasy as a thing. And so I thought this was the person who would go down the street and buy milk and groceries. Until I actually saw a picture of Andre Norton and realized she could live next door to me, and that was a shock. And now I am the person who lives next door to people and go, she writes books. The other influence was Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone, because that taught me a whole lot about writing the scary and the dark and the things that we're afraid of. And those, I was very young when I was watching this, so they were quite informative, and some of the plots I still remember because they're scary.
Gremlin on the wings, man.
Oh yeah, and my name is Tommy Tina.
And you better be nice to me.
For me, it was probably similar to Anne. It was kind of an amalgamation of things. It was books, it was comics, it was TV shows, it was movies. It was kind of this pantheon of pop culture stuff that I loved that had really interesting female characters, and not necessarily strong in the sense that they had to have the physical traits of a man, like physical strength, or She-Hulk quite love, didn't necessarily have to Hulk smash something, but it would be people like Willow who were strong in their loyalties and their friendships, and characters like that, like Dana Scully, whose strength was in her intelligence and her wit. So it was kind of an amalgamation of all these fictional heroines and characters that I loved, that sort of became like invisible parents in a way, because they raised me to be obsessed with all things pop culture and all things surrounding like badass ladies punching stuff, metaphorically and or otherwise.
I've got a couple that were very influential. The first was S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, and that was...
Pretty cool sort of.
Yeah. What it did for me was it taught me about structure, because it was it's very circular in structure. And I remember I was sitting in a beanbag because